The bodies were found buried in this 5-foot deep grave just off of Indiana Highway 114, less than 4 miles from the Illinois state line. The gravesite was discovered Sunday night by a farmer who couldn't figure out why his recently planted corn had sprouted everywhere but on the small patch on the eastern edge of his field.
A farmer who leases this state land just north of Morocco, Indiana, had called them to say it looked like something had been buried near the edge of his new corn crop. After a little digging, Hudson made the grisly find. As has been the case in many mafia hits, both victims were only wearing their underwear. Sources say that shows they now may hide nothing. The burned-out automobile was found about 2 miles due west of the gravesite, right down there. The car roughly halfway to a farm, reportedly once owned by jailed Chicago godfather Joseph Joey O'Brien Aiuppa. Could it be that the Spilotros were driven down here believing they were to meet with fellow mobsters at Aiuppa's secluded rural home?
While investigators look for clues behind the Spilotro killings, one question they are no doubt asking is why this site in rural Indiana? It's reported that Chicago syndicate boss Joey Aiuppa either owns or once owned land just a few miles away from the gravesite.
Federal agents today visited this heavily secured home and parcel of land about 3 miles from the gravesite. Investigators say the property was once owned by jailed Chicago crime boss Joseph Aiuppa. The then godfather ran a hunting ground here called the Yorkshire Quail Club. Police say it catered to sharp-shooting thugs until the mid-'70s, when the state put Joey the Doves Aiuppa out of business. It says underworld hunters then moved to this club a few miles away. The Pinewood Hunt Club is complete with a one-armed bandit, Las Vegas-style slot machine, and an antique barber chair, reminiscent of those sat in by many mobsters killed while getting their hair cut. And we have learned tonight Tony Spilotro's brother Patrick, for years, ran a dentist practice not far from here before moving to the North Shore.
So this video is showing the location of where the Spilotro brothers were buried after they were murdered in 1986. There was news footage of when they found them out here. This is the field. And out there, along that tree line, is where they found their grave. It's just a cornfield. And I'll show you how I know this later. Now I'm going to drive to Joseph Aiuppa's hunt club, Joey Doves. We are coming up on this intersection here. This is the Illinois state line. I have seen one video of some people claiming that straight ahead in these woods, there used to be a little white trailer in there, and they think that that's where it was, Joseph Aiuppa's hunt club. And they were close, but it was actually right next door to the right. It was actually right here in this field. You see those power poles out there? That's about the only thing left, is those 2 power poles on the tree line. The driveway was probably right here. There's a little bump out right there where there was looks like an entrance. Okay, so now I'm facing north on that same road, turned around. This is the field where his hunt club was. Nothing really here anymore. You can see a couple power poles. There's one. And then out there is another one. Kind of that gray stripe there in the trees. And you can see those in a picture I'll show you later, but I mean, there's nothing left. They removed everything. One thing I did notice here though, right in front of my truck, this little bump out used to be the entrance to the driveway. If you can see that little tiny little bit of asphalt and gravel there. The ditch wasn't here at the time, and that's where the driveway was, into this field. And you had a house and a little fenced in pasture and a couple other, looks like some sort of animal pens or something, but I'll show you that later. Now I'm facing south down this road. On my left is Indiana, on the right is Illinois. Okay, so we're at the T intersection here. in this field here. Out here, it's just a cornfield. This is where Tony Aiuppa's hunt club was. There's the field entrance. Sorry. And now I'm gonna drive out to the Pinewood. You can see there's that green roof building. Private property is all it says now. So there's that green roof peaked building. And I'll show you how I know. There used to be signs out here that said Pinewood because I knew this was the Pinewood even before I saw that footage. That green peaked roof is basically our best remaining reference. That was it. That's the Pinewood. Okay. So, if you know this area at all, here's Kankakee Bradley area, Hopkins Park, St. Anne, Lake Village, Indiana, Enos, Indiana. This whole area in the lime green border here is Willow Slough. And this one over here is Iroquois County State Wildlife Area and Hooper Branch Savannah Nature Preserve. The Spilotro brothers' burial was right here. Right here in this field. You may recognize some of the angles that the helicopters were coming around in some of that footage. Oops. And maybe a better view of it if we went back. So that's where they were buried. This one's pretty easy to figure out if you know how to use Google Earth or maps and pay attention to that news footage. They show you enough and tell you enough to figure this out pretty easy. What they don't tell you and seem very elusive about is Joseph Aiuppa's hunt club. They tell you it's a few miles away, different miles away in different broadcasts, and they show you a map that's way off. But in reality, it's right down this road. It's on the same road, like 3.5, 4 miles away, maybe not even, right by this intersection. This is where I was saying some people have mistakenly said it was in other videos, and I think one of those people got some information from a local, which seemed to be the only way you could figure this out. And the guy told him the right place, but he didn't meet up with the guy. He came out here on his own. He mistook what the guy said or assumed that it must be this, and he said it was this. And then another video was made by other people that I think were just following that video's lead and said the same stuff, but it's not. It was right here in this field. Oops. And I'll show you what it used to look like. So here's 2005. You can see the remains of the house was right here. the quail pens or whatever were right here. You can kind of make out the shape right here. Here's the house with that, I guess you could say U-shaped, where these two side walls are more forward than this middle wall. This right here is a rectangular building that you can see in the footage, and behind it is a pen, like a quail pen, and also right here is a quail pen. And then this whole area, square right here, is fenced in. And the big sweeping driveway, this is the entrance I was showing you in the video. And I'll show you how I know this later. Now, in that footage, they also say that they moved from there to the Pinewood Hunt Club, which is right over here, not far away. Here's the peak of that green building. You can see in the footage. And I'll show you. Those silos will reappear. Right there. So in the footage you can see these 3 silos that they had removed sometime between 98 and 2005. That's the Pinewood. Let me show you how I know. I did a lot of searching. I know this area pretty well. I was kind of driven nuts by trying to figure out where this was because I know the area so well. And I just was racking my brains about how you could figure this out, searching through all kinds of records, and it was not easy, because what I'm about to show you is misfiled and hard to find, and it's the smoking gun to Aiuppa's Quail Club. If you pay attention to the details in that footage, you'll see. Here's his hunt club. Here's the house with the 2 walls that are more forward than the middle wall. Window on each of those. Here's the electrical drop, which is where the wire comes from the pole to the house. Here's the chimney on that middle wall. Oops. Here's a window on that middle wall with an air conditioner below it. And then they pan to the right over here and you can see this rectangular building. And behind it is a pen, with part of the pen has a roof. So from above, this covered part ends up looking square, even though this is rectangular. Then you have this pen here with portion of it covered. And the whole square pasture area here fenced in with this one side of it with the heavy hedgerow. And then the big sweeping driveway. Oops. That comes here, through here, and past it. Now, here's a better view from overhead. Let's go back to that one. Here's the big sweeping driveway. From that entrance I showed you, it goes past to another building, which you never see in the footage. Here's the house with the U shape, where the 2 side walls are more forward than the middle. Here's that rectangular building with the other portion covered so it looks square, and the fenced-in pasture behind it. Pen. Here's another fenced-in pen with a portion covered, and then here's the whole square fenced area with this one side having the heavier hedgerow. There's a little bit better picture of that same thing. So that's the place. Joseph Aiuppa's Hunt Club, the Yorkshire Quail Club.